Hello, I'm Chris. Welcome back to Marine Corner. This is something I've done a few times. This is a second-hand TBR for the year. Sometimes I pick books that I have to do a bit of I fancy reading a few of those. I've usually completed it. The last time I didn't, I think I picked too many books. So I've decided, new year, let's do another 12 book. Well, I usually pick more than 12 books, but I've decided to stick to 12 books for the year. I've gone 6 fiction, 6 non-fiction. I'm going to use a random number generator. I'm going to keep them in this order. I've took a picture of them already, so I know the order. I'm going to keep them in this order. 1 is the first one, 6 is the sixth one. So whatever I pick on my random number generator is the one I read in that month. So yeah. And obviously once I get to the end, that's the last one I'm reading. I feel like there's a good mixture of books here to like, if I do pick a number and I'm like, I think a lot of them look like quite good books from what I can see. And quite a few interesting ones, especially non-fiction ones look really interesting as well. Anyway, rather than tease you, I'm going to go through them. So we've got first The Revenant by Michael Punk, I think it is. This one I picked up at a charity shop. I've never seen the film The Revenant, so I was like, well, I've not seen the film, so I could read the book first. I thought this is fiction, historical fiction, sorry. So it sounds quite interesting. This is Hugh Glass isn't afraid to die. He's done it once already. When expert tracker Glass is viciously mauled by a bear. Death seems inevitable. The two men ordered to remain with him flee, stripping him of his rifle and hatchet and leaving him to die alone. But soon a grim, horribly scarred figure is seen wandering, asking after two men, one with a gun that seems too good for him. Wow, that sounds really good. So I've not read Revenant, I've not seen the film, so why not read the book first? I'm not sure if... I know Leonardo DiCaprio's in the film, but other than that I don't know much about the film. And I don't really know much about the book apart from that. So that's number 1. So on my second-hand TBR for the year. So, and then this is one I picked up recently when I thought, well, I went shopping in a antique shop and found 3 books, and 2 of them ended up on this TBR. The other one didn't, because that might end up on another TBR, which is coming in a upcoming video. Anyway, this is called His Bloody Project by Graham McCrae Burnett. Now, after reading Case Study, I really enjoyed it. It's still on my mind, that book. It's definitely one I want to reread. But let's talk about this book. So, the year is 1869. A brutal triple murder in a remote community in the Scottish Highlands leads to the arrest of a young man by the name of Roderick McCrae. A memoir written by the accused makes it clear that he is guilty, but it falls to the country's finest legal and psychiatric minds to uncover what drove him to commit such merciless acts of violence. Was he mad? Only the persuasive powers of his advocate stand between McCrae and the gallows. Graham McCrae Burnett tells an irresistible and original story about the provisional nature of truth, even when the facts seem clear. His Bloody Project is a mesmerising literary thriller set in an unforgiving landscape where the exercise of power is arbitrary. That sounds really good. It got shortlisted for the Man Booker in 2016 as well. I love that cover. I love the bloody fingerprints on that. So that's that. The third book in the pile is Paul Auster's The New York Trilogy. I'm trying to get a mixture of reads. I know the first 2 are probably thrillerish, but this one's probably a bit more crime. No, that's probably crime and thriller. First one's probably thriller, but this one sounds quite interesting. And there's 3. It's like a full trilogy in here as well, so that's good. In a contained book, it's about 300 pages, so not too long for a trilogy, but a good. I've not read any Paul Auster. I'm not sure what else he's written, to be honest with you. It looks like he's read quite a lot. We'll see what I think of this before I look into more of his, but as this is all I've got anyway as well. It was in 3 brilliant variations on the classic detective story. Paul Auster makes the well-traversed terrain of New York City his own as it becomes a strange, compelling landscape in which identities merge or fade and questions serve only to further obscure the truth. Well, that sounds really good as well. And it leaves a lot to the imagination. That, I mean, 'cause obviously it's a trilogy, they're not going to spoil the third one or whatever. So yeah, that sounds really good and interesting. I think I paid £1 for that. So that's that. And then I got Near Automata, which is Long Story Short, which is a light novel. I've not played this. I think it's based on a video game. I've not played the video game. It doesn't really say much. It just says, like, you have to read this novel, really. Author bio. I've only ever read one light novel, but it's something I want to get into more. I like manga and I like comic books, but I think light novels I'll probably just enjoy that a little bit more. Considering that's £10 and say manga's £10, it'll probably take me a lot longer to read that than it will a manga. I mean, it is only about 250 pages, so it looks thicker. It seems thicker than what it is. But anyway, that's Near Automata. That's by Jun Ishima, and the original story was by Yoko Taro. So that looks really interesting. Like I say, I think it's a video game, but it's not one I've played. So again, I might check the video game out if I enjoy the film, the novel, the light novel. And then I've got a book I've wanted to read for a while because of Bukowski mentioning. I read. I thought it was there. I read the Bandini Quartet because of Bukowski. So this is Journey to the End of the Night by Celine. I think it's Louis Ferdinand Celine. He's a French author, I think. French author. First published in 1932, Journey to the End of the Night was immediately acclaimed as a masterpiece and a turning point in French literature, told in the first person by Celine's fictional alter ego, Bardamu. The novel is loosely based on the author's own experiences during the First World War in French colonial Africa, in the USA, and later as a young doctor in a working-class suburb in Paris. Celine's disgust with human folly, malice, greed, and the chaotic state in which man has left society lies behind the bitterness that distinguishes his idiosyncratic, colloquial, and vision writing, and it gives it its force. That sounds really good. It's been a novel I've wanted to read for a while. As soon as I saw, I think Matt Wall mentioned it on his channel, and obviously it's something Bukowski likes as well, which intrigued me. So that's that. And then the final novel is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This is a book I've wanted to read for a while, but I only wanted this cover of it. I didn't like the... there's another cover with like gold writing on I never really liked. I don't think it says much about this book either. I don't actually know much about this book at all. I mean, it is only short, it is only 192 pages, but there's no blurb or anything. I don't actually know I'm not sure what that's about, and I don't want to presume anything. But yeah, that's the last of the novels. So, but yeah, I know it's a classic, and it's one I've wanted to read for a while, as well as Lord of the Flies is another one I've not read, which is one I plan on reading probably next year. I don't think I paid too much for that, actually, thinking about it now. I think it was rather cheap, and that's what made me buy it, because it was the cover I wanted and it was cheap. So, moving on. I think my non-fiction are quite mixed as well. I think there's a bit of everything, a bit of something for everyone in these books. Maybe not for everyone with this one, because I know he's a bit of a I don't know what it's called. He's not for everyone. He's a bit of a, you either like. I think he's like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. I quite like. I've not really listened to too much of his stuff, but the albums I have listened to I do like, and that is Shaky, Neil Young's biography by Jimmy McDonough. Again, this is a book mentioned by Matt Wall. But like I say, Neil Young is someone I do enjoy listening to as well. So this is a book I've wanted to read for a while. And I'm sick of saying I want to read it. It is quite a big book, but I imagine it's quite an interesting book. So yeah, that's that. I'll say what it's about, although it's about Neil Young, obviously. Neil Young is one of rock and roll's most important, influential and enigmatic figures, an intensely reticent artist who was granted no writer access to his inner sanctum until now. Shaky is the whole story of Young's incredible life and career, from his childhood in Canada to the founding of folk rock pioneers Buffalo Springfield. The blurry conglomeration of Crazy Horse and the monstrous success of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, to the depths of Tonight's the Night, Depravity and the Geffen Years, and Young's 90s comeback. Shaky, the title refers to one of Young's many aliases, is also the compelling story of a lonely kid for whom music was the only outlet, a driven yet tortured figure who controlled his epilepsy via mind over matter, an oddly passionate model train mogul who, inspired by his own son's struggle with cerebral palsy, became a major activist in the quest to help those with the condition. So that sounds really interesting. I didn't know all that about him. But yeah, I mean, Buffalo Springfield, I don't know if anyone's seen Lord of War, but the opening to that with For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield is brilliant. I've not seen that film for ages, actually. I might have to rewatch that. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to Shaky again. Like I say, something for everyone. If you like music, you might be interested in that. And then I've got an author I've never read. But this is a book an autobiography by him. This is Miracles of Life by J.G. Ballard. The reason I picked this is because I thought it'd be quite interesting, and I was trying to pick a mixed read. So I've got something about a music guy, I'm saying magician. I want to say musician. So and then this is a book about an author. J.G. Ballard has been for over 50 years one of this country's most significant writers, beginning with the events that inspired his classic novel Empire of the Sun. In this revelatory autobiography, he charts the course of his astounding life. I thought I did. I actually have Empire of the Sun, so I might read that this next year. I'll keep saying this year now. Miracles of Life takes us from the vibrant surroundings of pre-war Shanghai to deprivations and unexpected freedoms of Lungyua camp. Into Ballard's arrival in a devastated Britain, Ballard recounts his first attempts at fiction and his part in the social and artistic revolutions of the 60s. He describes his friendship with figures as diverse as Kingsley Amis, Michael Moorcock and Eduardo Pelosi, alongside recollections of his domestic life in Shepperton, raising 3 children as a single father following the unexpected and premature death of his wife. Miracles of Life is both a captivating narrative of the experiences that have shaped this extraordinary writer's works, his distinctive outlook and his original visions of the future, and is also an account of an entirely remarkable life. Wow, that sounds interesting. Like I said, I've not read any J.G. Ballard, but I thought, why not read about him as well as... I mean, that's a book he's read, and also... But that Empire of the Sun sounds good as well, but I've got a couple of others by him that I've not read. Having never read The Order Arthur, that's obvious. And then a book last year that surprised me was A Brief History in Time. I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was very thought-provoking. By Stephen Hawking. This isn't the second one I picked up in the antique shop. It was 3 for a £5, so I think this was my third one, because I think His Bloody Project, then I got the J.G. Ballard one I picked up, but I can't remember where I put that now. Oh, sugar. I put that somewhere. I can't remember what that one's called now. I got a J.G. Ballard one as well, but I can't remember what it was called. Let's just see if it's in here. Can't see it. No, I can't see it. Can't see it, but it was a J.G. Ballard one I got as well. So that's that. But yeah, so I picked this one up. Stephen Hawking, Quest for a Theory of Everything. The Story of His Life and Work by Kitty Ferguson. So I thought this was... As soon as I saw it, I was like, I've got to have that. I loved A Brief History of Time. So this says, this is a story of one of the most remarkable figures of the late 20th century, Professor Stephen Hawking, the Cambridge genius, who has earned an international reputation as the most brilliant theoretical physicist since Einstein. It's quite a, high praise, that really, isn't it? His book, A Brief History of Time, which I've just spoke about, has sold 8 million copies worldwide and familiarised a whole generation with complex but intensely exciting scientific theories. To be honest with you, if they'd read that, I'd have bought that. When Kitty Ferguson approached Stephen Hawking with the idea of writing a book about him and asked him to help her make certain she understood his theories, he agreed to do so and also supplied her with material about his childhood and life. This book is a splendid result. It is not a biography per se, it is rather the story of one man's quest to find the theory of everything. In these pages you will encounter a multitude of amazing paradoxes. Beginnings may be endings. Two great scientific theories taken together seem to give us nonsense. Empty space isn't empty. Black holes aren't black. Cruel circumstances can lead to happiness, although fame and success may not. And a man whose appearances inspires shock and pity takes us laughing to where the boundaries of space and time ought to be, but are not. Well, that sounds really interesting, that. And it's only thin as well. It's not like a massive, it's only like, it's less than 200 pages. But yeah, like I say, after reading A Brief History of Time, that was definitely going to get picked up. Down to the last 3 now. This first one is going to be no surprise to people who've watched my channel a few times. This is 6 Minutes in May, How Churchill Unexpectedly Became Prime Minister by Nicholas Shakespeare. This is a book I've wanted to read for a while. I was going to read it in May last year, didn't get round to it, so I decided to throw it in here. And like I say, that's as unexpectedly. I didn't know this. I know Neville Chamberlain was in power before Churchill. So yeah. So it's going to be quite interesting, this. So, London, May 1940. Britain is under threat of invasion and Neville Chamberlain's government is about to fall. It is hard for us to imagine the Second World War without Winston Churchill taking the helm. But in 6 Minutes in May, Nicholas Shakespeare shows how easily events could have gone in a different direction. That sounds interesting already. It took just 6 minutes for MPs to cast the votes that brought down Chamberlain. Shakespeare moves from Britain's disastrous battle in Norway, for which many blamed Churchill, onto dramatic developments in Westminster that led to Churchill becoming Prime Minister, uncovering fascinating new research and delving into the key players' backgrounds. Shakespeare gives us a new perspective on this critical moment in our history. Wow, that sounds really good. I think I read one. I did read one, but I think it was called How Churchill Waged War by Alan Packwood. That was really interesting. It had some of its. It mentioned some of its speech. I think it mentioned some of his speeches in there. I don't want to say for definite, but I think it did. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading that. So that's that. And then the last two. I feel like with the non-fiction, I've got World War Two. I've got an author. I've got a bit of science, and a bit of music. This is called Into Thin Air, a personal account of the Everest disaster by John Krakauer. So this is about Everest now, so this is something completely different again. So there's a good mixture here if anybody fancies any of these. On 9th of May 1996, not too long ago, I was alive then, showing my age now. 5 expeditions launched an assault on the summit of Mount Everest. The conditions seemed perfect. 24 hours later, one climber had died and 23 other men and women were caught in a desperate struggle for their lives as they battled against a ferocious storm that threatened to tear them from the mountain. In all, 8 climbers died that day in the worst tragedy Everest has ever seen. John Krakauer, an accomplished climber, joined a commercial expedition run by guides for paying clients, many of whom had little or no climbing experience. Into Thin Air, he gives a thorough and chilling account of the ill-fated climb and reveals the complex web of decisions and circumstances that left a group of amateurs fighting for their lives in the thin air and sub-zero cold above 26,000 feet, a place climbers call the death zone. Into Thin Air reveals the harsh realities of mountaineering and echoes with the frantic calls of climbers lost high on the mountain and way beyond help. Well, that sounds really good. I picked that up in a charity shop. I do have another John Krakauer that I want to read as well, but because that was a new book, I picked this. That was Into the Wild. Yeah, Into the Wild I want to read by him. But that was a new book, so that's why I picked this one. So, on to the last one now, and again, something different again. This is Horror Film, A Critical Introduction, edited by Murray Leader. Now, I've not really watched a lot of horror films. I do like horror films, but I've not really watched a lot. So I thought this was quite interesting, and again, something a bit different. And then, so you got movies, music, movies, World War II, Everest, science, and an author. So quite a mixed bag, really. So this one says, throughout the history of cinema, horror has proven to be a genre of consistent popularity which adapts to different cultural contexts while retaining a recognisable core. Horror Film, A Critical Introduction, the newest in Bloomsbury's film genre series. There must be a few different ones. It says film noir and anime at the bottom. They'd be interesting as well. Theory and aesthetics as one no introductory book ever has, featuring studies of films both obscure and famous. Horror Film is international in its scope and chronicles horror from its silent roots until today as a straightforward and convenient critical introduction to the history and key academic approaches. This book is accessible to the beginner but still of interest to the expert. So, that's all 12 books. Now, all 12 books to me sound really interesting, that's why I picked them, but I also wanted to pick the new ones I had picked up, like the Stephen Hawking one and the but that's them, so that's all them. So that's 12 books I'll read next year, picking one a month. But I'm not going to go, say for instance I get The Revenant, I'm not then going to read 6 Minutes in May, or it's not going to be fiction, non-fiction, it's going to be whatever I pick. I have picked the first book that I'm going to be reading, which I did using the random number generator for January, but that'll be my January TBR. So that's that. I think it's a really fun thing to do, picking up, especially if you pick up second-hand books. It's a way to read them over saying, oh, I'm going to read all my new books first. And it's just a bit of fun and a bit, like I say, I feel like I've picked different books there to read different things, and it's given me like a mixed bag. I mean, to be fair though, I mean, you could argue that the one 6 minutes in May would be good to read in May, or even for non-fiction November. Horror film would be good in October. Shaky would be good in November. You know, Near Automata might be good for sci-fi September. But I'm just going to read, and then obviously Paul Auster and Ace Bully Project be good for March Mystery Madness. But I'm just going to read them as they come up. So first one's picked, which I'll show in my January TBR, but then the rest I'm going to pick at random. Well, I'm going to pick before I do my TBR video. So that's that. I'm going to do I think I'm going to do one more video tonight, because and then I'm going to do my top 10 reads and I'm going to do one more video, top 10 reads tomorrow, and then I think New Year's Day I'm going to do an update on where I'm up to with what I've finished for, like if I finished Cruel Sea or not, and then into my January TBR. So I'm going to do one last video now, and then that'll be me done for tonight. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.